Market analyst Seth Denson weighs in on that coming up next. And then later, defense contractor Honeywell fined $13 million for sharing details about American fighter jets with the Chinese. Why it's part of a much bigger problem in this country. Later in Perspective.
It's not punishing anybody. All those folks are still going to have 2 homes or 3 homes in their jets. It won't matter. Not going to change their standard one little bit.
The president there claiming he's taxing, who he's taxing to fund the massive $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan. Just really, really, really rich people. People with houses and jets all over the place. Yeah, right. Today he was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, trying to garner up support in a very red state. And while Biden defines a family making $400,000 total as wealthy, the reality is families making that much, especially anybody that lives near a major city in this country, certainly not living large. We can tell you that. Places already have high taxes, huge costs of living. $2 million gets you a crummy house in some of these places. It's unbelievable how much it costs. These people travel in Chevy SUVs, not on private jets. For more on this, we're going to bring in business and market analyst Seth Denson, also the author of The Cure, a blueprint for solving America's healthcare crisis. Seth, good to see you.
Rob, good to be with you, man.
So he says he's only going to be punishing the super wealthy here, and that, you know, if you make $400,000, you got a private jet. I don't know anybody that a man and wife with a couple of kids and $400K got a private jet. Do you?
No, I certainly don't. If anyone can tell me where for $400K a year I can buy 3 homes in a private jet, call me. I'll work towards that, and I'll be all ears. Now, This is class warfare at its best, or really at its worst. You know, there was once a time in America when we looked at those that found success at any level and we applauded them. Now we want to demonize them and say they're the root of all evil and the cause of all your problems. And if we can take from them, we can solve all the problems. But that's just not reality.
Yeah, Republicans have this $600 billion alternative that focuses on what is actual infrastructure, bridges, roads, airports. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says Republicans would rather finance their plan through fees, you know, tolls, gasoline taxes. Is that better? Is that a better alternative? I mean, obviously it's better to spend less money, but what about the way they want to pay for it?
Yeah, I think, listen, from a gas tax perspective, that's something we haven't looked at in 30 years. We're behind the curve of the rest of the world. So maybe that's something we can look at. But, Rob, I will tell you, I'm against the federal government collecting one more red cent from an American citizen until they can get their spending under control. Because here's the reality. If they taxed every American 80% of their income, they'd outspend it.
Yeah.
And until we can get responsible government in place, I'm not in favor of the government finding a way to collect one more red cent. They need to get their spending under control, find the money. It's in the budget.
I couldn't agree more. No matter how much they take, they're going to need more 5 years later because these people are totally incompetent. Biden is trying to sell the idea that, that taxes can fund his entire plan, which is BS. He plans to undo Trump's 2017 tax cuts and raise the corporate tax rate. He says this will lead to economic growth through raising taxes. He says Trump's tax cuts led to the deficit. What is your take on what he says?
Yeah, Trump's tax cuts didn't lead to the deficit. Government spending led to the deficit. Yeah. Again, going back to what we just said, if we can't get the government to stop spending money, we're always going to be running in a deficit. So, yes, could we collect more revenue? Absolutely we could. But what's that going to do? That's going to stifle growth in the economy. Trump's tax policy and economic policy led to the largest period of economic growth across every financial sector and every income level than we've seen in over 50 years. Taxing people isn't going to get the job done.
Yeah. And to be fair, the tax cuts did lead to a deficit because of what you said, because we spend way too much money. And that is honestly the fair perspective. And that's how Democrats get away with their little statement, because it's half true. Biden, again, falsely claimed that his infrastructure plan would create 16 million jobs. Take a listen.
Liberal as well as conservative think tanks point out we will create up, if we pass this jobs plan, create up to 16 million good-paying jobs.
So he's previously given out this false estimate, calculated that nearly 16 million jobs will be created by 2030, according to Moody's, without Biden's plan at all. That's what they estimate, 16 million. Moody's actual estimate is that it would create 2.6 million jobs over 10 years, not 16. You think the media is just not going to correct him on this?
No, I'm all but guaranteed the media is not going to correct them, maybe at 3 in the morning. But listen, even if it did create 16 million jobs, which it won't, even Secretary Buttigieg has walked that back, it's going to cost 30 million jobs in the process. So, yeah, we may lose 30 over here to create some number of jobs in new clean energy and all these other things over here, and I'm all for creating jobs over there, but not at the cost of losing 30 million over here. If this is going to create any jobs, it's going to create jobs overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Democrat definition of creating a job is stealing your tax money and then paying somebody to build something. So I've never thought that really meant a job. All right, Seth Denson, thank you so much for the time. Good to see you.
Thanks, Rob.